And now we talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers for like the millionth time this season. The basketball gods are angry, man. Another player being injured for around 2 months. DeMarcus Cousins, Andre Robertson, John Wall, Kevin Love now. Of course, there was Isaiah Cannon and that injury. Something's going on with the b-ball gods, but what's going to happen with the Cavaliers now with Kevin Love out? Well, their offense has, weirdly enough, not been that good lately. All the talk has been about their defense. Not even their offense has been that efficient as of late. I think a lot of that is because Isaiah Thomas is just clearly not himself. Doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the burst, doesn't have the verticality. And when you are his height, the moment that you see a drop-off in athleticism, that can be pretty devastating. And he's taken possessions away from LeBron or Dwayne Wade and all that stuff. I mean, since Isaiah Thomas came back on January 2nd, the Cavaliers' offense has a 105 net rating, which is 18th in the NBA, and then their defense is still terrible, as it is 27th since the January 2nd. And you have to assume that a three-point shooting, switch attacking Kevin Love is going to, well, hurt that because he's gone now for an injury. What do the Cavaliers do to correct this? Well, I think inserting Jay Crowder back into the starting lineup was probably the only option you really had at power forward, because LeBron wouldn't want to do it, and it would probably make sense to not have him like defending opposing power forwards, because you need LeBron for all the offense you can get on this team. He's already playing like high 30s in minutes, so we don't need him getting too physical with opposing fours. But yeah, so you ask Crowder to do that. And for what it's worth, Jay Crowder has actually been making his three-pointers lately. It's still not that beautiful, but for most of this season, month by month, he's been under league average from three. In his last 5 games, he is shooting 47% from outside on around 3 attempts a game. And in the month of January, he's a shade under 35%, which is still really not that good, but it's at least something, because throughout this season, his three-pointer has been really inconsistent. Now, does this mean that he's finally in shape and he's going to go on a shooting tear? I don't know. I mean, his best shooting season was, it was last year with the Celtics. He took about 5 a game and he shot basically 40%. So if you can ask Jay Crowder to just be hitting league average on 3, then I think you'll take it at that point. But the biggest scare I think this has is now at this point, if Isaiah Thomas is going to keep on being this, and I mean, it sucks that this is, what we're seeing out of him right now because of how exciting and just good he was last season for the Celtics. But if this is what he is, then you only really have one guy who can generate his own offense. Because Kevin Love, like I mentioned before, he could post up. He could sometimes do something off the dribble against an opposing big. He could bail you out on a possession that's going nowhere. I don't know if anybody else on this team can do that at this point, besides LeBron James, of course. And that might be asking LeBron to shoulder too much of the load. I mean, they've already been asking him to shoulder too much for years now. And now he doesn't even have one other guy who can consistently put up 20 points a game efficiently. That is indeed a problem. And I don't know if there's a lot of signs out there that Isaiah Thomas is really ready to get back to what he was. I mean, he is getting to the free throw line somewhat decent amount. He's shooting about 5 a game, so he's getting some separation. He's drawing some contact. That's good, but he's got to be able to make shots, man. Like, he's not making his threes. He's not shooting well from the field at all. His true shooting percentage is 49%, which is like really bad. So it's going rough for Isaiah right now. The only other ball handler I see is Dwayne Wade, who, was pretty damn decent for them for a good stretch this season as a playmaker and basically your backup point guard off the bench, even if he's technically a two-guard. Really, just based on what we've seen from Isaiah Thomas so far, it makes more sense for the ball to be in D. Wade's hand than it should be in Isaiah's hand. But the thing that's tough is, if Isaiah Thomas doesn't get back to what he was, then this team has no chance at all of winning a championship, because that's the ultimate goal with them. So you have to keep Isaiah out there, and you have to hope that he gets back to that point. But you're also costing yourself while doing all that. It's kind of like Breaking Bad, the basketball version. Isaiah's been playing 26.5 minutes a game for them. Dwayne Wade, in their very last game, played 26 as well. Maybe you keep Isaiah down to like 20 minutes a game as he figures it out, Just a few extra minutes for guys who have been doing well for you. Like Kyle Korver played 19 minutes. I don't think that's enough. If you're a team who's now going to be struggling with offense, you should probably have your knockdown shooter out there for more than 19 minutes, The other thing that happens here with Kevin Love out, you ask Channing Frye to do more, and in the previous game against the Heat, he did hit 2 of his 4 threes, so that's good, and he can provide some general spacing, but, he's not going to give you what Kevin Love gave you, because Love, he could do more on offense besides just spot up, So the other question is, what are the chances of them turning it around on defense? And maybe that's how they survive with Kevin Love gone. Well, like I mentioned before, Jay Crowder goes back in there. He hasn't been very good on defense all season, but maybe we've passed enough games now to where he's had enough time to just get back to something close to what he once was. Again, the three-pointers have been going in lately. Maybe that's a sign that he's just finally ready to go in terms of his conditioning. Perhaps. Maybe it's just a blip on the radar and it means absolutely nothing. Tristan Thompson is playing again. He's not going to give you too much on offense besides offensive rebounds, which is something, to be fair. But, at one time, Thompson was one of the better defensive bigs in the league. So, you just have to hope that you see that. Now, besides those two, I don't have much reason to believe that anybody else is really going to do anything on defense because, LeBron picks and chooses his spots. Like, if he gets mad at Porzingis, then he'll become a lockdown defender, but besides that, it's not going to happen. Isaiah is Isaiah. J.R. Smith hasn't been average on defense for a little while now. D. Wade, he's in a similar boat to JR. You got Jeff Green, who's okay. Maybe you just implement a switching defense because, if anything, everybody's kind of around 6'6", besides Isaiah. There's not that many gifted defenders in this team at this point. And the guys who used to be, well, they used to be. But if you just have a lot of switch potential, then bare minimum you can at least not get beat on pick and rolls as often. But even then, this team has had problems with activity and communication on defense. And I don't remember who said this. I think Jeff Van Gundy said it, where he said he would have his teams sometimes trap the pick and roll because if anything, it forces them to move. And maybe that's what you do because you have to get these guys actually waking up and actually moving on defense, Now, the Miami Heat only scored 89 points, and they had an offensive rating of 85 in their previous game. Is that a sign of things to come for the Cavaliers? Potentially. Maybe. Maybe not. We'll have to see. But I think that's kind of has to be the mentality here, because if Isaiah's not going to be himself, then I have very little reason to believe that you're going to be able to remain an elite offensive team with Kevin Love gone, unless J.R. Smith or Jeff Green or somebody just can't miss from three. So you're going to have to do it on defense, and, well, everything I just said, for the sake of not repeating myself, we'll just have to see, man. This Cavaliers season it's just like it's one thing after another with them. It's inner turmoil. It's guys are unhappy now. Kevin Love gets hurt.